Hello and welcome back to Football Daily, where today we're looking at 10 sketchy transfers which saw clubs find themselves on the wrong side of the law. 10. Ousmane Dembélé. Now the fourth most expensive player of all time at the tender age of 20, Ousmane Dembélé joined Rennes at 13 and made his first team debut at 18. By that point, he was already a hot property, with Red Bull Salzburg and Man City making plays to bring him to their academies. But Rennes signed the winger up for his first professional contract in 2015, albeit with a paltry buyout of €5 million. But a hot start to his senior career saw Bayern, Dortmund, Barcelona and Arsenal take an interest, and the French side desperately offered Dembélé €5 million to sign a new contract, with no release clause. They ended up strong-arming him into dropping his agent and used as club-appointed advisor Marco Lichtsteiner, the brother of Juventus right-back Stéfano, and agreed a €15 million move with Borussia Dortmund. Suspiciously, the transfer came shortly after Rennes' billionaire owner bought a large share of Puma, who in turn hold shares in Borussia Dortmund. Fortunately for the French side, they'd had foresight to agree a sell-on clause, guaranteeing them 25% of any future fee paid for Dembélé. That netted them a cool €26 million when the winger joined Barcelona in 2017, bringing their total return on him over €40 million, and meaning the club broke their transfer record fee without even lifting a finger. 9. Conor Hourihane. A slight departure from the other players on this list, midfielder Conor Hourihane joined Barnsley for £250,000 in 2014, helping the Tykes win promotion to the Championship and pick up 5 wins from their first 7 games in the division. In his first month in the second tier, he was named Player of the Month, and by January he had attracted the interest of Aston Villa. Barnsley fans were appalled at the idea of losing their star, with the club in 8th and just 4 points off the playoffs. So one enterprising fan started a petition on change.org, asking the government to make it illegal for the clubs to sell Hourihane to any club for any fee. He received 600 signatures, a decent number, but not enough for the government to bring back slavery, and Hourihane went to Aston Villa for $3 million. He ended the season with an amazing 6 goals and 11 assists from central midfield, making him the top creative player in the league, but Villa could only manage to finish 13th, 1 spot above Barnsley. 7 and 8, Carlos Tevez and Javier Mascherano. Back in 2000, 2 Argentinians were lighting up the Brazilian league with Corinthians. Tevez and Mascherano, both 22 at the time, were on the radar of every big club in Europe. But against all the odds, on the last day of the summer transfer window, they joined West Ham to play under legend of the game Alan Pardew, for a rumoured fee of £26 million for the pair. It turned out that the double switch had been orchestrated by super agent Kia Jourabisian, whose investment fund owned the playing rights for Tevez and Mascherano, and who was also trying to put together a takeover of the Hammers. Mascherano failed to settle at Upton Park, finding himself behind such superstars as Nigel Reo-Coker and Mark Noble, and left on loan to Liverpool in the winter window. But Tevez was brilliant, scoring 7 and assisting 4 as the Irons won 7 of their last 9 games to beat the drop. However, West Ham was still in trouble. Jourabisian's conflict of interest, both representing the players and wielding influence at the club, breached Premier League regulations, and the club was handed a record £5.5 million fine. In addition, because they'd avoided relegation at the expense of Sheffield United, they were ordered to pay the Blades £18 million in compensation. And it didn't end there. The sketchy contracts which had taken the Argentinians to East London enabled Manchester United to sign Tevez, with the Hammers receiving just £2 million, while Liverpool acquired Mascherano permanently for nothing. The pair went on to win 9 titles and 3 Champions Leagues between them. 6. Philippe Mexès. If you're going to mess with transfer regulations, you should at least do it for a world beater like Ousmane Dembélé, not an error-prone cart horse like Philippe Mexès. The centre-back came through Auxerre's academy alongside Bakary Sagna, Djibril Cissé and Abou Diaby, and at 22 caught the attention of Roma, who were looking to rebuild after the departure of coach Fabio Capello. Mexès thought he had a gentleman's agreement with the club which would allow him to leave for a reasonable sum, like the €4.5 million Roma had offered, but his boyhood side told him they expected him to see out his remaining 2 years of his contract. Livid, the Frenchman asked FIFA to let him terminate his existing deal and travelled to Italy to join up with what he considered to be his new club. FIFA took a dim view of his actions, ordering the player to pay his club €8 million for breaching his contract. Meanwhile, Roma were judged to have encouraged Mexès' behaviour and were suspended for signing players for 2 transfer windows. The defender himself left for Milan on a free in 2009. 5. Neymar. Despite Barcelona's attempts to get the move stopped, Neymar's switch to Paris in 2017 was totally legal, unlike his transfer to the Camp Nou in 2013. The Brazilian, then 21, was already a hero in his homeland, having scored 43 and 47 the previous season, bringing Santos their first continental trophy since Pelé led the line in 1963. Barca beat Chelsea and Real Madrid to Neymar's signature, and he signed a 5-year deal, with the Catalans claiming to have paid €57 million for him. But 6 months later, Spanish authorities revealed that Barcelona's paperwork had some strange errors on it. On investigation, it turned out that the real cost of the transfer was over €86 million, with Neymar's father receiving more than €40 million for his role in making the switch happen. The club president resigned and the Blaugrana were charged with tax fraud. They paid nearly €14 million to help the charges go away, but would face a much higher price 4 years later, when the release clause inserted in the dodgy deal allowed PSG to swoop in for the forward. What goes around comes around. 4. Unnamed 12-year-old. Liverpool have gained a reputation for transfer shenanigans in recent years. In 2013, they ignored a clause in Luis Suarez's contract to prevent him joining Arsenal, gambling that the Gunners wouldn't sue, and in 2017, they were reported to the FA by Southampton for tapping up Virgil van Dijk. And they don't limit their predatory antics to the seniors, receiving a 2-year ban on signing academy players after they tried to poach a 12-year-old from Stoke in 2016. Liverpool apparently approached the child's parents, telling them the club would pay his private school fees until he was 16 if he joined them, before whisking them off to Anfield for the VIP treatment. But the Reds had failed to get permission from Stoke, and they were forced to pay £100,000 in compensation, as well as losing the right to sign youngsters from other English teams, a practice which had previously brought Jordan Ibe and Raheem Sterling to the club. The real loser was the child, though, who was suspended from training with any side while the case was being resolved, with his family struggling to meet his school costs. In the end, Liverpool accepted the FA's judgment and shelled out £50,000 to make peace with the Potters. 3. Gaël Kakuta. For a player who only made 6 league appearances for the club, Gaël Kakuta was a huge problem for Chelsea. The French winger joined the Blues as a teenager, having come through Lens Academy, alongside Geoffrey Kondogbia, Serge Aurier and Raphael Varane. However, his former side reported Chelsea for tapping up the player, reportedly arranging a pre-contract with him before reaching an agreement with Lens. FIFA handed Kakuta a 4-month ban and a fine of €780,000. They also fined Chelsea £130,000 and banned the club from signing players for 2 transfer windows. In true Chelsea fashion, the club appealed the decision, claiming that Kakuta's contract was invalid. At the same time, Man United were fighting Le Havre over a promising midfielder called Paul Pogba, having allegedly paid his parents a handsome sum for first dibs. As usual, the big clubs won, but while Pogba turned out to be pretty decent for United, Kakuta never shone in London, going out on 6 loans before eventually moving to Sevilla and then China. He is now back in France, having played under 200 games at the age of 26, fewer than 21-year-old Dele Alli. 2. Eusébio. An icon who won the Portuguese League 11 times, the European Cup and the Ballon d'Or, scored 473 goals in 440 games for Benfica, Eusébio is one of Portugal's greatest ever players, even though he was originally from Mozambique. Then the Portuguese territory, the African nation, often saw its stars leave for Europe, and Eusébio was in high demand, turning down a move to Juventus when he was 15. At 18, Benfica came calling, with the forward attracting attention for running 100 metres in 11 seconds, as well as scoring 77 goals in 42 games. But there was competition for his signature. In Mozambique, Eusébio had played for a feeder club of Sporting Lisbon, and the Green and Whites expected him to join them for nothing, while Benfica offered an equivalent of €2,000 for 3 years. The player agreed to become an Eagle, and his new agent sent him to the Algarve for a fortnight under the code name Ruth Meloso, worried that Sporting would try and kidnap him if he stayed in Lisbon. It was 6 months before he was registered to play, making his first official appearance the day after Benfica beat Barcelona in the European Cup final. He would go on to be a top scorer in Portugal on 7 occasions, and retains the record for the most goals in the red shirt. 1. Alfredo Di Stefano. The most controversial transfer in Real Madrid history until Luis Figo came along, the 1953 acquisition of Alfredo Di Stefano saw the club win 8 Spanish titles and 5 European Cups. But the forward, then 25, almost moved to Barcelona. Di Stefano was with Colombia's Millonarios at the time, but Argentine giants River Plate also claimed his playing rights. and Barcelona decided to negotiate with River, offering Millonarios a tiny fee for the star. They flew Di Stéfano out to Barcelona, where he played for them in the pre-season, but Millonarios complained to the Spanish Football Federation, saying that they had no deal with Barca and in fact had hammered out a switch with Real Madrid. Barcelona fans claim that dictator Francisco Franco put pressure on the federation to decide in favour of Real, the regime's club of choice. But in the end, the organisation decreed that Di Stéfano would split his time between the Giants, spending one season in Madrid and the next in Barcelona. Embarrassed and angry, Barca's board said they didn't want Di Stéfano anyway, allowing Los Blancos to acquire his full rights. In his first El Clasico, he scored 4 goals and would go on to score 18 against the Blaugrana, more than any player in the fixture's history. Thank you for watching, and if you like that, why not click here for another great video? And don't forget to like and subscribe.